It is user error, but the brands with the most problems do all of their targeted advertising to users who are going to make errors, and DIYers are set up for failure from the start. Let's talk about it. Hi besties, if you're new here, I'm Ren, and I developed an allergy to HEMA, HPMA, and acrylomorpholine in 2024, and now I make videos to promote allergy awareness to prevent folks from getting nail allergies and test gel polishes on myself to help my fellow allergic girlies continue having pretty nails. That first sentence was probably a shock for some of you to hear coming from me because the internet loves to say that folks with nail allergies just blame these poor, innocent brands for all their mistakes. But as I clearly stated in my very first Beatles video, I don't blame the brand. I blame myself for using it. People love keeping up their illusion of safety by saying that it's user error, but what exactly can that mean? Application is absolutely of utmost importance, and people think that by talking about brands, I'm somehow putting all of the blame on them. However, the reason I don't talk as much about application is that everyone else does, but everyone is going to make application errors, especially at the start, and almost no one talks about the importance of starting with quality, more forgiving products. User error doesn't mean the brands are without fault and don't deserve to be exposed for blatantly lying to consumers, crap formulas, and false advertising. At the end of the day, it is always user error. Whether it's from the inevitable flooding, the occasional brush on the skin, or accidental spill of gel polish on your drawer, or the incorrect lamp, or using the correct matching that just sucks because it's cheap and underpowered. It does all come down to user error. But how the users make those errors and how the products play into it are what's important to talk about. You see, ever since the pandemic, companies flooded the market to get these products into the hands of the folks who were sitting at home, going crazy, unable to see their nail techs, with one goal and one goal only: to get filthy, stinkin' rich. And some companies not only succeeded, they excelled. Now, some folks will say that you can't be mad at a lion for eating your face off. It's a lion, after all, just like you can't be mad at a $1 polish for being formulated like a $1 polish. But what if the Safari salesman told you that it was perfectly safe if you followed their instructions? What if they promised you the best kitten cuddles you've ever gotten and that you'd be safe so long as you wore their specific brand of Safari gear, which happens to be a $5 shorts and tank top? What if they said that to see if the lion would eat you or not, you should let the lion take a small nibble of your arm? And what if they plastered these messages all over social media and paid people that you trust and love to tell you how amazing these lions are, and that anyone who did have their face eaten off, well, it was their fault? All while putting the most aggressive, unsocialized lions ever in the Safari because they were the cheapest. Okay, I'm overplaying that analogy, but you get the point. That is what these brands have done, and they've done it so well that they've created an insanely loyal fan base that doesn't even realize that they weren't any less bamboozled than everyone else just because the lions didn't eat their face. There is a giant sense of elitism in the nail community. For whatever reason, people seem to think that there isn't enough space for everyone in the community. Everything has to be a competition, and people cling to anything that makes them superior to everyone else, including not having a nail allergy. A lot of them use that like a badge of honor and come running to comment sections to proudly announce, well, I've used X brand and don't have an allergy, must be your fault, while completely neglecting other factors like genetics, immune system, and no, I don't mean immunocompromised, and just blind luck. No matter how much people want to defend crappy brands and put it all on user error, brands do play a huge part of the allergy conversation. Can someone who vapes get lung cancer as quickly as someone who smokes Marlboro Reds? Sure, it's technically possible when looking at other factors like genetics, luck, lifestyle, and other health conditions, but we all know the chances are much lower. The same happens when you use well-formulated brands. Can you still get an allergy? Absolutely, but the chances are much lower, and why wouldn't you want to lessen your odds as much as possible? People like to cope by telling themselves that it's not as bad or as prevalent as us fear-mongers say it is. But let's look at the facts here. These are all scientific journals discussing the prevalence of acrylate allergies and how much they've risen. I recommend you read them all, but the most prevalent culprit here is HEMA, followed very closely by HPMA. It's estimated at 4%, which is very significant. That's millions of people who suffer from these allergies. Still think it's no big deal? So let's look at some of the ways that you can develop nail allergies and how the brands play into that. The culprit is always uncured monomer coming into contact with the skin, but there are many ways that happens. We have the most obvious one, cuticle flooding, which is when the product pools in the sidewalls, causing some pretty significant skin exposure. There are also small minor accidents, like a small dot touching the skin. These aren't as significant, but still add to exposure. Every single person who has ever used gel polish has gotten it on their skin at some point, whether professional or not. And whoever tells you otherwise is lying, because there are 1,000,001 ways to end up with gel on your skin, and some don't even involve application. These small exposures add up over time, and it depends on each individual immune system when you will develop the allergy. For some people, it's right away. For others, it can take many years. And for some lucky folks, it never happens at all. It also depends on the level of exposure and how prolonged. Another way gel ends up on your skin is Gel X. I will make an entire separate video on Gel X, but it is my belief, don't eat me, that the popularity of soft gel extensions has significantly contributed to the allergy problem. Now, I'm not saying don't do Gel X, because I do it too, but it is insanely important to adhere your tips with quality products, because this is where the majority of the exposure comes from. Everyone starts somewhere. No one starts doing Gel X with perfect application, and those mistakes that you make while you're still learning can be detrimental if you're not using the right products. There's also, of course, lamps. Let's say you used a product like Beetle's UV glue with a high monomer content and used a lamp that was nowhere near strong enough, and now you're walking around for days with massive amounts of uncured monomer seeping into your skin every time you put water on your hands. Now, this is what I suspect happened to me. I used the Beetle's UV glue to adhere half tips. I know for a fact I did not flood, but that didn't matter because I cured it in my Lavinda lamp, which is 48 watts, but I heavily suspect that it was not powerful enough to cure beetles because, mind you, that UV glue has 0.05% photo initiator. And while it's up in the air whether any lamp can even fully cure that, I am certain that my $50 Lavinda lamp could not. Therefore, I was walking around leaching heavy amounts of monomer into my skin, and that also explains why I only reacted on my left hand where I had applied Beetles. I also later found out that the lamp was malfunctioning, and just 1 week after that, it completely stopped cutting on unless it was plugged into power. So was it user error of me to use an incompatible lamp? Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is, what is the compatible lamp? It certainly isn't the Beetles one. These brands are selling you high monomer products with crappy $5 lamps and telling you that it's a full system. Now, I plan on making a full video dedicated to just lamps, but that is a very tedious topic. But for the purposes of not making this video an hour long, I'll keep it basic. Everyone assumes that people get this allergy because they're using flash cure lamps and then recommend some random generic 48-watt lamp like Lavinda instead, which still isn't good enough because there are so many other factors in wattage. Now, of course, I have seen people online who were using a little flash cure lamp and that's how they got the allergy, but that's the minority of what I've seen. And let's not forget that Beetles kits all came with flash cure lamps sold as a full system not even that long ago. These brands don't tell you what is good enough. They don't test their products even with their own lamps, which are complete garbage. So DIYers are set up for failure from the start because the only way to know that a lamp is fully compatible with a product is to have it lab tested. Doing an at-home cure test on a swatch stick or something like that will only tell you that the product is at least curing to 40% because that's when gel looks and acts cured. But as for the rest of it, you have no idea. Something a lot of people also don't know is that you have to replace your lamps. Yes, folks, they do go bad. And the problem is you don't know when your lamp is going bad. You don't know when it's malfunctioning or losing power unless it's obviously flickering or not turning on, but by that point, it's too late. In contrast, the same happened to me with Light Elegance when I got their mini dot lamp, which is advertised to cure just as well as their full-size lamp, but it wasn't curing properly for me. So I walked around with uncured soft gel tips with Light Elegance for a few days until they started popping off, and I noticed that the product was nowhere near cured. However, I had no reaction whatsoever. And that, folks, is the difference between using a crappy high monomer brand and a brand that is formulated with polymers and oligomers that are pre-polymerized to make it harder for them to penetrate your skin. So ultimately, yes, it is always user error, but there are so many other factors to consider. And at the end of the day, I 100% take responsibility for my allergy, and I have never said otherwise, no matter how much people accuse me of blaming the brand simply because I'm exposing them. But I am willing to bet my entire year's salary that had I not used Beetles, I would still be allergy free like I had been for years of doing my nails with other brands. Or maybe not, who knows? But I'm also willing to bet it on the fact that if we recommended pro brands or low to no monomer brands to beginners and people started with brands like Attain or Light Elegance, or heck, even the cheap brands like Zejai, we wouldn't see half as many allergies as we do today. So it is important to talk about brands, and it's important to normalize recommending good products to beginners instead of defaulting to stuff like Beetles because they market as a beginner brand and everyone knows them as such. There is no such thing as a beginner brand. There are good brands and there are bad. And beginners who are going to make the most errors have no business using the bad ones, because even professionals who make very little errors have developed allergies using bad brands. And your experience doesn't negate that. And it doesn't make you better than anyone else. Sure, the lion didn't eat your face, but you were still lied to. And these brands continue to lie to this very moment. And these creators who only see dollar signs continue to propagate those lies and then do everything they can to discredit me so they can keep making sales. If you are okay supporting that because you want to feel superior that you've used a bad brand and you don't have an allergy, that's on you. And it's not about classism or being against DIY like a lot of people try to make it out to seem, because there are cheaper options. Beetles is now up to $8 or $9 a bottle if you get it at Walmart. There are literally cheaper options that are so much better. There is absolutely no need to keep defending these brands. It all comes down to risk management. It's not brand shaming and doing the most to defend a brand that couldn't care less about you or your health and continues to lie to your face is not worth the risk. If not for yourself, then at least think of other people that you recommend or sell this to, who may not be as skilled as you and are more likely to develop an allergy because they'll make more mistakes. All right, besties, that was all for this one. I know it was a long, heavy, and talkative, but these are all important points to be made because I get questions on this constantly about why I don't talk about application or lamps or user error. And again, it's because those things are discussed by literally everyone else, but very few talk about the importance of well-formulated products and preferably good products with tested matching lamps. So I hope that I answered a lot of your questions and cleared some things up. But of course, you're welcome to ask away in the comments as always. And so for my own curiosity and mini research, let me know in the comments if you have an acrylate allergy. Did you develop it as a beginner or did you develop it years later? Which brands were you using and what lamp? I have some pretty exciting brand tests coming up, like the highly requested PLA. As always, thanks for hanging out with me and I will see you in the next one.